All right. Here I am. I'm here. I'm here. And I know I'm on time. I'm being funny, but I am on time. Y'all know my routine, man. Everybody knows my routine. You know, I got a lot of things to square away before I do this broadcast. I got a lot of things to square away, should I say, before I do this podcast. And we're going to talk about a few things tonight, but the main topic is going to be bronze Americans, so-called Black Americans. Bronze Americans responsible for the foundation of the U.S. economy. Yes, they are. Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah. And still a major part of it. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, in the name of Amen, the Supreme, the all-powerful, the one and only true Lord, and Amen we trust, and Amen we thank it, and Amen we continue forward forever. Good evening. I'm your host, the intellectual Lord Benjamin Manhattan, and this is Supreme American TV. And tonight we're going to be discussing what I said, bronze Americans, so-called Black people, Black Americans. Are they responsible for the foundation of the U.S. economy, United States economy? Yes, they are. Oh, yeah. Yes, they are. All right. Yes, they are. Oh, and let me say this before I start. I sent off a lot of people's shirts today. A lot of people's shirts. Shout out to Demara, Maria, a lot of other people. Because Bill, I can't remember all your names, but we sent out a lot of shirts today. So you'll be receiving shirts very soon. A lot of shirts are moving. The people who have not given addresses, the people who have not given proper addresses, the people who have not given their proper shirt size. Y'all shirts are going to be held up until you send us your information, because a lot of people, I get it. I know a lot of people wanted to, support the Street and Music Festival, which is still going on. Hail Amen, we're going to have a beautiful time celebrating our American culture. So, yeah, and we still taking donations. We still taking donations. We down to the wire. So please, again, donate. We want to close the gap. We still looking to close the gap. The more you donate, like I said, we still sending out shirts, and we closing the gap. We doing this for 2 days, and we're going to do this every year. So so we could have something to support, something that we can have as Americans in America, as original Americans, as real Americans. The American Indigenous Street Music Festival in Atlanta at Rodney Cook Senior Park, the 21st and the 22nd in July, Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have a good old, big American block party, all American soulful block party. To honor our American indigenous ancestors, our Olmec ancestors, our Mayan ancestors, our Inca ancestors, our Inca, Mayan, our Aztec ancestors, our American Indian ancestors. We honoring them, our true bloodline, our true heritage, our true American roots. We are honoring them. So please come out and celebrate with us. Please support. Hit the link down below. Support the American Indigenous Street Music Festival. You give give $60, you get a shirt. Over $80, 2 shirts. $100, you get 3 shirts. So, and I've been sending them out. So they coming to y'all. All the people who've been waiting is coming to y'all. Sorry for the delay, but we super busy. Anyway, let me go ahead on to this. Are bronze people responsible for the foundation of the U.S. economy? I said yes, because I was watching a documentary I came across, and it was a brief documentary, but what the documentary basically went into was about slavery in Virginia, right? And how so-called Black Americans, which we really know are the American indigenous people, how they were used in all levels of service in Virginia under the European government, under the U.S. government, right? Because you not only had, again, this whole nonsense idea that so-called Black people was only picking cotton and that's it, and they didn't contribute nothing to America other than picking cotton. We just picked cotton and that was it. This is what they just summed us up to. All the accomplishments that our people have in this country, and you got a whole bunch of people sitting up here ready to whitewash history. I saw the documentary. It was a documentary on Levi Strauss. Remember the guy who started Levi's, and the guy who was doing the biography, he totally erased the indigenous bronze people who really created jeans. Remember, I told you, indigenous bronze people, so-called Black Americans, we created the jeans. We created jeans blue jeans, that came from us. And this guy, this white biographer, he totally told a whole nother story and tried to cut the indigenous people, the bronze indigenous people, so-called Black Americans, out of the creation of the blue jean. He sat up there and did this, right? Now, I told you how the blue jean came about, because it was really made for the slaves, because the material they had kept tearing. You see the slaves all raggedy and whatnot, their pants, everything. So they made something called Negro fabric or something. I forgot what they call it. Negro something. It was Negro cloth. That's right, Negro cloth. Right, the Negro cloth became known as denim. Okay, he didn't want to talk about the Negro cloth and how the indigenous people was using the dye from the flower, from the I forget what that's called. They would dye in the jeans blue, right? They would dye in the jeans blue with the what is that? That flower that they used, the indigo flower. They made dye out of the indigo flower, which was another big cash crop that they don't talk about. They was making money off of us selling inks and dyes as indigo from flowers. They made more money off of that, because people was dyeing their clothes. So we had the dye. We know how to produce the dye from the flower, the indigo, which was blue. So we knew how to make blue. And so we would dye. We was always doing that. You know what that's like? That's like tie dye. It was kind of like tie dye. We would make the dye, put it in the water, and we would dye the clothes, let it dry out, and the dye is on the clothes. And that's how the jeans came about. We made the blue jeans, and Levi Strauss came along and stole the idea. Like a lot of these crackers do. They steal from our people. They were stealing from our people all the time, especially our labor, because they want to sit up here and make it seem like all we did was pick cotton. All indigenous people did was pick cotton. All so-called Black Africans, all we did was pick cotton. No, in that documentary, because they contradict themselves. They said not only was we picking the cotton, we were blacksmithing, basically working in every industry that these Caucasians couldn't do, and a lot of it they couldn't do. We was doing blacksmithing. We was working in and of course in the fields, blacksmithing. They had us working at railroad companies, and when they didn't have nothing for them with the men, they would rent them out to other companies. They would rent them out to companies, rent them out to the city, and they would take all the money off of our people. So you think about this. You renting out people, you got people working for you for free, and you working them, and you sending them out and renting them out to other businesses and other places, and you're building an economy. So if you got a bunch of people doing that, and they don't have to pay the people who are working and doing all this stuff for them, then they are stashing wealth. They are taking all that, because you ain't got to pay no labor, so you basically getting free labor. You being allowed to have free labor. These people are not getting anything, and they're being forced to work. They were being forced to work in every, and they said this in Virginia. So it was a lot of more places wherever there was slavery. They didn't just have our people picking cotton. They had our people working in damn early in coal mines. Had our people working everywhere, building roads, clearing roads, taking down trees. They had a lot of people doing all that stuff, building railroad tracks. We was doing everything here. And the thing is, like I said, they didn't have to pay our people anything. They didn't have to pay us anything. Okay, they didn't have to pay us anything, so they kept all that money, and like I said, and it compacted into interest, and they just kept investing in whatnot because they had a free workforce, the slaves, and that's who built the infrastructures. Even these buildings, the early buildings, it wasn't, like I said, the early buildings that started going up. They had the slaves building, working on buildings and doing construction. There are people doing all kinds of things on land, as far as manual labor and skilled labor. And the skilled labor, they don't talk about the skilled labor. Now, I said this before. I said blacksmithing, because you already know what they was using the blacksmiths for. They was using them to make guns. They was using them to make rails. They were making rails, making guns. They would be making all kinds of stuff. And of course, they didn't get paid for it. So all the profit went in the Caucasians' pockets, who were forcing these people to work. And the U.S. government enforced that. So they were collecting taxes. They were collecting revenue, taxes from off of the labor of these people, who were basically in every aspect of the economy. You were involved in every aspect of the economy, but especially in the agricultural field, like I said, not just picking cotton, but growing the cotton. Because if they didn't harvest and grow the cotton, the indigenous people, there would be no cotton, because you just can't grow cotton like that. They're not only cotton, rice, the rice, cotton, flour, which wheat, again, wheat. They were growing wheat. Our people were doing agricultural work. We were growing all of these different agricultural, all, because again, we come from an agrarian culture, which they still haven't explained. That if we so-called Africans here in America, how do we know how to grow everything? How do we know how to grow stuff in America? How is it that they needed people who were supposed to be foreign? Because it's like you giving props to the Africans. Because if you say that you brought a whole bunch of people over from some place to do something that obviously you couldn't do, the Caucasians got our people to force our people to do what we did because they couldn't do it themselves. They could not build this country on their own. You see, they never want to say that. They talk about white supremacy, but if you were so supreme, you could have built the country by yourself. You didn't need slavery. You wouldn't afford a war over slavery. Do you know how weak that makes people look? If you got to force people to work for you, you got to hold people at gunpoint, threaten and kill people, chase them down because they want to be free to live. Like I said, and you got to force these people because you know that if you don't have these people working for you, you are not going to survive. They could not do anything yet, but yet you call these people supreme. How do you call these people supreme and they couldn't survive on their own? Do y'all understand the whole idea and the concept of slavery? You force people to work and do things like this because you can't survive without them. They don't need you. You need them. You see, you follow what I'm saying? They make it seem like they so supreme. I don't understand how there's such thing as white supremacy when they couldn't even build this country on their own. If it wasn't for indigenous people building the economy, there would be no United States economy. There would be none. We were the first people that were traded on the damn stock exchange. The New York Stock Exchange was created to trade slaves and then other products. But the main product that was being traded was slaves, us, because we were. Like I said, we were valuable because we had skills. Our people had skills. They keep selling you this lie because every time they make these goddamn slave movies, they keep selling you this lie that all they was doing was in the damn fields picking cotton. And that's a lie. They keep selling you that lie that we was just in the fields picking cotton and you might see on the plantation one guy hammering and working in iron, but that's much they're going to show you. You see, they're not going to show you the rest of it. They're not going to show you that we basically were the workforce in this country. We were the real workforce. Before the so-called white man came here working, we were the real workforce in America because we knew how to do everything. But they want to downgrade us to just picking cotton. They want to low grade us into just picking cotton. But then they make documentaries like this saying that we were involved in every aspect of life in Virginia in the time of slavery when our people were in bondage. You see, because they needed our people. I told you, they don't want separation. They want domination. They wanted domination. They wanted to dominate the true powerful people. The powerful people who don't know their own power. The powerful people who they got to serve them. Got to use them to build up their economy. Again, there would be no economy if it were not for American indigenous people as slave labor here in this country. American indigenous people, not no African Americans, not no black people, the real American indigenous people. Because I told you before, you cannot come into a society and bring other foreigners in to do something, because again, if they could have did it themselves, they would have did it themselves. And they tried a lot of times before slavery. You do know the Europeans tried a lot of times before slavery to make it here in America. Because you do know it was a time where there was no slavery here, where people was just it was just the indigenous people, meaning our people, and then your Europeans started trickling over here in bits and pieces as the where's them people, the Puritans and all these other people. But you know, you had your white trash that made their way over here, that were ejected from England, and they made their way over here. You know, your wave of Euro trash that made its way over here. And I say that Euro trash because a lot of those people were kicked out of England that came over here. A lot of those people were put out of England. They didn't just come over here into America. They was put out of England. Why would you go someplace where you don't know? Because to leave someplace you do know. It's because they were put out of their country and they came over here. A lot of times, England used America as like a penal colony, where they would put prisoners here that they were getting out of England. They would empty out the jails of England and other places in Europe and just send these people over here. And these became your first Europeans that made their way over here. A lot of them, like I said, they were being put out of their own country. Or you might have one or two explorers make their way over, but the predominant people here were the indigenous people, the Americans, the real copper-colored races, the copper-colored races that were found here by the Europeans, the real Americans, the original Americans, us. The original Americans, us. We are the original Americans. You see, the real OAs, the original Americans. So eventually, as the Europeans made their way onto the land, and they knew the only way to survive here was to start trading with the indigenous people, meaning us. So they would trade with our people. And as they were trading with our people, they would find out where there would be issues and beef. Because again, they saw how vast the land was and how abundant the food and all that, and how beautiful this land was. And after a while, they wanted to, take hold of this land. Because they didn't really see a solid foundation, right? They didn't really see a solid foundation, so meaning that our people wasn't solid here. They know that America is full of indigenous bronze people, the copper-colored races, us, because that's what they referred to us as copper-colored people before the term black, before they made up the term black for our people, as a way to, it was a way to code our people. It was a way to code our people, just like white was a way to code their people, so that when you would hear, say, like, for example, somebody named John Brown, you wouldn't know if it was a Caucasian or American indigenous. You wouldn't know if it was an indigenous person or a Caucasian. So that's where they had to come up with the whole black and white thing, so you would know what race this person was, because this country was full of our people. And let me tell you something. They didn't have to pay our people anything. So think of all the money that was made off of our people, like I said, off of their labor, that all the money they saved from utilizing our people as labor to build up this country that they could have never built up without our slave labor. Our labor is in the plantations. Our labor is in the early construction of this country. Our labor is in the roads being cleared. Our labor is in all of that. We cleared out trees and roads and whatnot. We made roads for these people by force, of course. We had because we had roads we built. We did a lot of this stuff ourselves. So again, it made it more easier to exploit the people who already were here working and doing things, already growing things. They just forced us to do for them what we were doing for ourselves. That's all. Because they could not survive without us. Again, whenever they tell you that, oh, you're slave, all you did was do slave labor and it benefit, because that was another thing that triggered me. It was that what's that heavy set guy, Jason Whitlock. He really said some Sambo coon nonsense about how slavery benefited black people. He talking about how slavery benefited so-called black people. They say stupid stuff like that when the only people that slavery benefited was Caucasian people, white people, the U.S. government. That's the only people who slavery benefited. It did not benefit the people that was doing the work. It didn't benefit us, because what benefits do we got now? What benefits do we got now? You got people who done fought in wars and who was denied the GI Bill, whereas the Europeans, the Caucasians who fought, got the GI Bill and were able to get houses, low interest homes and whatever, and it was denied to our people who fought in the war. You got land that was given. You had land that was given to Europeans, taken from the indigenous people and given to the Europeans, and only to watch a lot of that land go under. Because at one point in time, that's another way how we're not African. How was it that we had 20 million acres of land here if we was African? How did Africans get hold of 20 million acres of land? No. We had 20 million acres of land. Look about now, we only own a small percentage of land here, but we had 20 million acres of land because the so-called white man wasn't here taking over the land. So they took land every time they came, as you know, they were taking and moving our people off the land. So they would take hold of the land and whatnot. And you know, they was moving the Mongoloids too, because they wanted to build cities and whatnot, but they definitely needed slavery. They needed slave labor. They needed people who come from an agrarian society. Again, we came from an agrarian society here in America. America is an agrarian society. So how is it that people who are not of that society able to harvest and grow and make, you know, and grow all this food and vegetation from the land and cotton and things like that, all this stuff that's being used on the land? How is he able to do that? How are they able to do something like that if they're not from that land? You see? And let me tell you something, even going further, even to this day, you so-called black men are still worth money. You know, when they say 100, remember they say, give me get $5, $10, $20. You know what bucks was, right? They were talking about so-called black men when they were trading our people. I'll give you $5 for this, or $5. Then it eventually became known as like cash. But our people were considered valuable because we could always do something. We always had some sort of skill. You see, that's why we were considered valuable. We could always either work, or we was good protection. We could fight, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. So they wanted to own our people because we had that skill. And it's the same way it goes today. Whenever you so-called black men get into the record industry, you always, and you sound halfway decent, you got somebody trying, here come one of these Caucasians trying to sign you, trying to trying to figure out how much money they could get out of you. So you valuable in the music industry, you valuable in the penal system. When they get you in the prison system, like I said, you got a whole prison system, a whole penal system that is based off of the old slave catcher setup they had. The whole police system, you see, which was really meant to police the indigenous people, which was really meant to punish the indigenous people who tried to escape, you know, from their bondage, who tried to escape, who wanted to be free, because they're gonna pass a law saying that our people couldn't be free in their own land. We couldn't be free in our own land. This is what the laws they passed. You see, that we couldn't be free in our own land. You see, and then let me tell you something. Let me tell you when they started making us African, because there was a law that eventually came out where they said that they couldn't enslave. They could not enslave, where they shouldn't be enslaving indigenous peoples of America. So then they couldn't say we was American Indians no more. So they start saying we was African. Because it was a law. It was a law that went out. Don't quote me on the time. Whereas the government didn't want to enslave the indigenous people no more. So that's when they start reclassifying our people, because they was not letting go of that indigenous labor that they had there. The indigenous people who they kidnapped, the indigenous people who they basically ran over and took over their plantations under the government's watch, and they didn't say nothing about it. Let them bum rush our people, kill our people, take their land, you know, force them off the land, force them to work, things like that. And the government turned a blind eye to it. They turned a blind eye to the abuse of the American indigenous people. Why? Because the U.S. government, which is a bunch of European racist Caucasians, they wanted our people gone. They wanted our people gone. That's the reality of it. They wanted our people to be, no, they didn't want us gone. They wanted us to be a permanent underclass until they got America going. And then once they got America going, then they was like, oh, we're going to just send these niggas to Africa. Let's send them to Africa. Because now we're going to just bring Europeans in. We're going to build up the economy off their backs for hundreds of years. So now we got everything going. So now we could just go and start teaching white people how to farm. We could start, you know, basically replacing these Negroes. Just basically replacing them. You see? Look, again, exactly. Look how they make money off. Look how they make money off you. They make money off you in sports. They make money off you in music. They make money off you in fashion. They make money off you in everything. In drugs. You so-called black men are commodity, man. They make money off of your genetic material. Don't think they're not getting money off your genetic material. When they're taking your blood, when you go into the hospital and whatnot, They're making money off your genetic material. They make money every time your woman take you to court for child support. They make money. So don't ever think. And then when these foreigners come into this country, we're the first place the white man sent them. He sent them into your neighborhoods to open up some Arabs in there to open up a liquor store, a bodega, a hair place, an Asian open up a hair place. They do that because they know it's money where y'all at. Wherever y'all at, it's gonna be some money. I don't care. You don't believe that old black neighborhoods ain't got no money, and yes, they do. Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our economic foundation in this country is downplayed. A lot of the economic foundation we provided in this country is downplayed. You see, they act like, oh, we was just a bunch of pickaninnies sitting around picking cotton. They start making that up after we got out of slavery. You know, they start making up that whole trope about we was just a bunch of pickaninnies sitting around picking cotton and playing the banjo and all kinds of simple nonsense. They had our people doing everything. They had our people doing everything from skilled labor to manual labor. They had our people doing everything, building everything. You see, growing everything. And it gave this country an economy. And I'm going to tell y'all something that y'all probably don't even know. And they're not even going to share this with you. I guarantee they won't. How many of y'all remember the Great Depression? The Great Depression took place in about the 30s. Remember the Great Depression? How many of y'all remember the Great Depression? Yeah. How many of y'all still remember the Great Depression? I heard of the Great Depression? 1929, right? Why y'all think that really happened? Why you think the Great Depression and all this really happened? They keep telling you about the stock market crash and whatnot and blah, 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 and the stock market. Let me tell you what that really means. Let's translate what that really means. Because I just told you who the stock market's backs was built on. It was built on the backs of indigenous Americans, of American indigenous people, us. It was built on our back. So if there's a crash in the stock market, that means that there is either not enough crops, there's even not enough crops being brought in. There's not enough food to go out. There's not enough things to be sold. So obviously there is a problem with the workforce. Usually when there's a problem with the stock market, anything, usually it's a problem with the workforce. Now, we know who the workforce still was even after slavery, right? We know who the primary workforce still was. And as we had our people picking cotton still, a lot of our people still picking cotton, all up to the 60s and 70s, picking cotton, still living in damn shanty little shacks and whatnot, still picking cotton, still growing vegetables and fruit and tomatoes and all this other stuff. So you doing all the agricultural work, still got the men doing blacksmithing and metals and things like that. You still got all these people because, again, if you could give these people next to nothing who were just slaves not too long ago, why wouldn't you keep them working? And that's exactly what they did. You know, you had indigenous people, bronze people that was trying to leave the South. They couldn't even leave the South. And I'm talking about in the 20s and the 30s. You had these Caucasians would get in front of the ones who had plantations still or farms. They would get in front of the damn train station to stop our people from leaving. Once we said, we're not taking this shit no more. We leaving, we going, we can't do this no more, man. And they would literally stand out. You would have to sneak out of town like they still own you. Like they still own you. That's how valuable our people are. You ready to kill somebody rather than let them live free and be done with you. Now, I have nothing to do with you. They rather kill because, again, they know when our people leave, like I said, it's death and destruction. But let me tell you. So I want you to think about this. What was happening around 1929, 1930s and whatnot? What was happening around that time of the Great Depression? What was taking place? I want you to think about that for a minute. You know what was taking place? I'm gonna just tell y'all what was taking place. A lot of indigenous people, bronze people, started coming up from the South and up to the North. A lot of our people started leaving the South, which means they stopped leaving the plantations, leaving the sharecropping behind. So you already know Once that's left behind, once you got people leaving, they just leaving and coming to places like New York, Chicago, LA. They going to the city. They just tired of dealing with these Caucasians and one of these races. They getting tired, so they leaving in droves. They was lynching our people at the time too. So they come into these cities and whatnot, and they really didn't want, the government didn't want our people to leave the South. They didn't want our people leaving the South. That's why they started creating, but they figured that, oh, why are they leaving the South? Because of the lynchings, the violence and stuff, and people don't want to just live like that, man. So they came with these anti-lynching laws to stop these racist Caucasians, the Klan and all of them, from lynching so-called black people. So that black people would stay there, but it was too late. Black people left. They left, and when they left, a lot of that workforce went. Y'all follow what I'm saying? When they left, a lot of the workforce left. And once the workforce leave, you ain't got people working the fields no more. So now it's harder to produce food and clothes and stuff like that. Y'all follow what I'm saying? Y'all see where I'm drawing the line at? Now I'm saying directly, I don't care who agree with me or not. So-called black Americans are responsible for the Great Depression. So-called black people leaving the South and no longer working in the fields, right? And coming to the cities, coming to the North and whatnot, that made a big dent in the U.S. economy, a huge dent that they don't ever want to tell you about. Think about it. Does that sound far-fetched? Because keep in mind, the economy was started by our people, our labor. So if we ain't working in the fields no more, ain't no more nothing being made. You know, these crackers can't do nothing. They wouldn't really built like that. So, and when they was trying to get out there and do it, that's probably where the depression came in, because they ain't have black people doing it now. They didn't have black people growing the crops and doing all this stuff now, and harvesting the crops and doing all this stuff. So, of course, and let me tell you something. The reason why they gave W.E.B. Du Bois, why they gave him, the Caucasians, races, gave him the permission to open up Tuskegee Institute. The reason why is because Tuskegee Institute was an agricultural college. And being that it was an agricultural college, they had black Americans, indigenous people there who was farmers and things like that. They were going to become agricultural engineers. But you know what they would do? Because, again, Tuskegee's in Alabama. You know what they would do? And Tuskegee's an indigenous word, by the way. They would allow them to have the agricultural college, but they would take all of the stuff that was grown. The state would take all of the food and all of the stuff like it was grown by the college. In other words, they would give our people tracts to practice and, or just, have tracts allotted for us to farm. But the farm, the food and whatever we grew was going to the state. You see what I'm saying? So they, of course, as long as you serving them, you can get educated. You can learn how to be an agricultural engineer. You see what I'm saying? When our people wasn't in the field, when our people started leaving the South, Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, all the beds of Louisiana, all the beds with, where you had all that land, all this fertile land, and where's all the food coming from? Because what was they saying? It was a food shortage. Right? Things was expensive. You had people on soup lines and whatnot and begging, and you had bums and stuff like that. So again, where did that come from? That came from the indigenous people leaving the South and coming to the North, and there was no more workforce. The workforce was largely depleted. And that's why they started letting these Caucasians get up on damn trains and tell them, you niggas can't leave the South. You got to stay here and work for me. You see? Yeah, a lot of them, and that's another thing with a lot of these white farmers. That's where people like Bonnie and Clyde, it was white trash. That's where people like Bonnie and Clyde come from, because they come from them white farmer backgrounds. Where the U.S. government gave them land. They ain't buy no land. The government gave them land, and they couldn't work the land because they didn't have no black people helping them. They couldn't afford to do nothing with black people was leaving the South. So a lot of the farms, when they went into white hands, they went under. And that's where they started robbing banks and whatnot. They was out starving. They farmland went to hell because they didn't have bronze people working the farms no more and whatnot, or doing no kind of sharecropping. And it was a movie. I forget what that movie was, but it was a movie. and it kind of it was, I forget what the name of that movie was, but this guy Eric Mitchell was in it, and he was basically from some who else was in Eric Mitchell? Mary J. Blige was in this movie too. How many of y'all remember that movie? Eric Mitchell, Mary J. Blige, she played his mother, and they were basically in the South somewhere in the 20s or the 30s or whatever, and you know, they were basically being held hostage. You might well say it. They were basically being held hostage by these Caucasians in this racist town because the white boy, basically the white man needed the so-called black man to do work for him. He needed him to work. And he wasn't paying the black dude. He kept talking about, oh, you know, the this, that, and the third. I had to pay this. Basically making the nigga work for free. You see? And the bronze man wanted to leave. And they had, of course, they had his woman taking care of the cave woman and her children, right? Had her taking care of her, you know, and making, and she was making herbs. How many remember? What's that movie? Right? But anyway, so they had her making herbs and stuff. Okay, what was going on? Mudbound? Okay. So they had her making herbs and stuff, right? And you know, she was like, you know, they were sick, these crackers, they were sick all the damn time and whatnot. You know, they always had the indigenous women making herbs and things for them to make them feel better, you know, because these was the early people that was making the medicine. You had a lot of people who know how to do herbs and stuff. You had a lot of Dr. Sabies back then who know how to make herbs and stuff. And that's not African, by the way. Herbal concoctions and things, that's American. That go back to the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan. We was always dealing with herbs going back to ancient Mesoamerica. So herbal biology and things like that come putting together in compounds and herbs. We was already doing stuff like that. In fact, the medical industry is built off of that. A lot of the medical industry is built off of the indigenous people in the medicine that they was making from herbs. They just go and steal it and put it under another name. You see, we already knew about willow bark, and we already knew how to make willow bark is what they make aspirin out of. That's an herb. You see, a lot of the things they use today, they copy from our people, and they try to diminish us in the economy of America. That's why, yeah, so-called black Americans, American indigenous people do deserve reparations. Of course they do. Now, are they going to get it? Probably not, because they're not going to sit up here and admit, number one, that what they did was wrong. And number two, they got to admit that our people are not from Africa. They're going to have to admit that our people did not come from Africa, and that in the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary definition of American, as we starting to wake up, a lot of y'all starting to wake up, because remember I told you, you can't trust the U.S. history, because U.S. history is white history. You got to go back before they became white people. You got to go back before the 1500s, because like 1651, you got to go back back before 1651, before they started whitewashing and making up everything and lying and making everybody white. But you got to go back to where they was telling the truth about how the indigenous people looked here. And they got early pictures that show that the indigenous people, right in the book of Library of Congress, the earliest drawings and pictures and paintings of the indigenous people, they was all bronze people, man. It was no Mongolian indigenous so-called natives here. It was none of those native Mongolian looking people today. It was all bronze people, man. And they exploited our people, man. That's all. They forced our people, they took over our lands, and they forced our people to work for them. And that's what this country is built on. And that's where their economy comes from the forced labor of the American indigenous people, the bronze, copper-colored races, us. We are the descendants of, we are the descendants of, and I don't like that term, a descendant of slaves, because they make you think that our existence comes out of slavery. No, we was always here. We are descendants of free people, man. We was free in America. We, way longer than we was a slave. That was like a blip on the screen as compared to us as free people here in the Americas. You see, that's why I hate when people try to make it seem like, oh, we only exist in the United States, or we was. And Tariq Nasheed said that too, man. Again, I don't mean to just jump on his back, man, but he said that nonsense too about, oh, we indigenous to the United States of America. We indigenous to all of America. What are you talking about? We indigenous to all of America. We're not indigenous just to the United States. I mean, we're indigenous to all of America. And ever since these people came in from, whether it be the Spanish, the Euro-Spanish, whether it be the Asians, whether it be the European, the English, or whoever, wherever they came in, they always try to exploit the people and take over the economy. They always, that's again, they want the natural resources for themselves, and they want to enslave the people and make them work for them. That's it. And that's what they did here in America. They enslaved the American indigenous people, the American Indians. Go back to if you don't think that's real, and a lot of times these so-called Native Americans, they don't talk about the history that's recorded of how the early settlers in the 1700s, these European settlers in South Carolina, how they was trying to enslave the Yamasee indigenous people, the Yamasee. They were trying to enslave them. Or was it the Washita? I think no, it was the Yamasee. They were trying to enslave the Yamasee, or so-called Creek, which was all bronze indigenous people, and they were trying to enslave them. And our people in the Yamasee killed off about 1,500 to 1,800 European settlers, colonizers, because they were trying to stop them from trying to force their people into slavery, which is what they was doing. They was capturing indigenous people and forcing them into slavery. That's how slavery, the slave system, was built, off of kidnapping the indigenous people and forcing them to work. You see, that's all. And you had, I told you. So, yeah, we are very much responsible for the economy, even today. Even today. And let me tell you something. Just like I said, we were responsible for the Great Depression once we left the South and stopped, laboring in the South. Again, if our people were able to pool their money together and do for themselves and things, like, we wouldn't even need no reparations. I bet you if we started doing stuff like that, they would be begging to give us reparations if we started actually working together and pooling our resources like how other communities do to, gain wealth. So-called black people could make money off of selling drugs to each other, crack, cocaine. Again, that proves again that so-called black neighborhoods are not broke, because they got money to buy drugs. They got money to go to the bodega store, the liquor store. So they're going to always find some money and spend some money there. You see? Like I said, there was no economy in America until the American indigenous people built it, us. And I'm going to just say this, man. Yes, I think that the whole FBA thing was concocted to, just like all these so-called little acronym, these little niche catchphrase names for bronze people. I think because certain people saw that, our people are starting to wake up to who we are as American indigenous people. Then all of a sudden, people trying to remix and reintroduce black to us, like FBA and all that, to block off or hide who we are as American indigenous people. I really think that. I really think that these people are being used, who still pushing the whole black thing. They're just being used to push, to basically drown out the knowledge of who we are as American indigenous people. They trying to use it to drown us out, because they're not ready to admit that so-called black Americans are really American Indians or American indigenous people. They're not willing to admit that. The government ain't willing to admit, at least not now. But as time goes on, our people keep waking up to the reality of who we are, and that we didn't come from no Africa on no slave ships. We're not African. We American indigenous people. We've always been in America, whether it be South America, Central America, North America, Canada, all this area over here in the South and the North, or like the Israelites say, the Southern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom. You see, again, these Negroes don't know that the Southern Kingdom was really our people, and the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Israelites with their 12 tribe sign. They don't know that's really representing bronze men from everywhere and women from all the Americas. That's really what they're not understanding. But when they get to the so-called Judah, he African. Now, Negroes, man. Yeah, Judah African, but everybody else American. Everybody get that? African American, and the Israelite chart. Judah is at the top. He African. He came from Africa on slave ship. But all the other people, the Guatemalans, the this, that, the Chile, that's all America. The Guatemala, Chile, all that's all in the Americas. And they show you these people who are mixed race, obviously, and those are part of the tribe. But the black man, you from Judah, you from Africa. Y'all Negroes is bugged out, man. Y'all bugged out. Y'all don't even know that all the original people of the Americas is us. You see, the original people of all the Americas is us. I don't care if it's South America, Central America, North America, Guatemala, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. We are the original people of all of the Americas. So when I say we continental Americans, God damn it, we are continental Americans. We are original continental Americans. You see, here you go, a new acronym, OCA, Original Continental Americans. We are. And the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary backs it up. The so-called white man backs it up. But yet you got these people out here talking about we came over here on slave ships. They keep trying to push the old slave ship trope and whatnot. I'm not buying that. And of course, we got black skin too, right? My skin is black, right? I got black skin. Look at all this copper skin. I got black skin, right? Go ahead, man. No, we're not pushing it. Oh, we came from Africa trope. No. We smarter than that. As Americans, we should be smart as that. Smarter than that. It's time to stop being black people and African Americans, man. You see, we claiming our true identity as Americans. That's it. And we could put the indigenous in parentheses, but we claiming who we are as Americans. That's it. You know, we ain't trying to, we ain't bothering nobody. We just claiming our culture, man. That's it. We claiming our American indigenous culture. And unfortunately, a lot of these Negroes, a lot of people feel the same way. A lot of people feel the same way. You see, a lot of people feel the same way. A lot of our people waking up. A lot of our people also waking up to this whole ghetto culture thing. Because I was going to do something about that, but the black fatigue and the white fatigue. But let me tell you something about black and white. Black people, white people, people who are that, those are people who are absent of color. Again, that's why I say I'm not for black people or for white people. I'm about righteousness. I'm about illumination. I'm about that of brightness, intelligence. Again, black and white, these people exist in a world where there's no color. We live in a world of living color. We live in a world of living color. And when I say I live in a world of living color, I mean I can see clearly everything, and I don't let things in this three-dimensional realm color my judgment. I mean, I should say black and or white in my judgment, I should say. I don't let nothing, affect my judgment based on the things I see and hear in this three-dimensional space. I'm beyond that. I told you, I'm not a three-dimensional believer. I'm a fourth-dimensional thinker. I am a fourth-dimensional thinker. And as a fourth-dimensional thinker, we already know, like I said, reality is coming forward. And I said this too. I said the fact that we have our own street festival here in America as Americans, that is the realest thing that's happening in America today. This is the realest thing that's happening in America today. Americans, original Americans, indigenous Americans, real Americans celebrating their American roots, their American culture, their American heritage. And it ain't got nothing to do with Africa. It ain't got nothing to do with Asiatic black people or Euro. No, it's Americans worldwide. We celebrating our American culture because we know that we are the only real indigenous Americans. This guy gonna say, this Caucasian guy gonna say, they always do this, all right? This guy was talking about music, and he was basically, he kept African American the video to death. Yeah, the African Americans did this. The African Americans gave music to, and the African Americans is responsible for American music. I'm like, man, if you don't stop African American to me to death, please. Nobody want to hear about African American this and African American that. That's dead. We Americans. And again, original Americans need to stand up as Americans, the real Americans, the genuine, authentic Americans. You see, we celebrating our story, our true story. We're celebrating our heritage. That's why it's important that everybody, we keep, supporting the American Indigenous Street Music Festival. We're going to be doing this every year. Arm and willing, we're going to be doing this every year. You see, because we need to know who we are. We need to stop letting people tell us nonsense. Stop letting people piss on our heads and tell us it's raining and tell us, oh, we got black skin. Oh, we black people. Oh no, that black. Well, don't that come from the white man? Oh yeah, brother. But so how are you going to talk about the system of white supremacy and you using a terminology that was meant to basically disrespect and insult our people by calling us black people? How are y'all still keeping that going? How do you Tariq Nasheeds and Jason Blacks and all these pro-black, how do they, Umar Johnson, how do y'all sit up here and call our people black people? How do you do that? How do you sit up here and call our people black people? Make that. I'm trying to understand that. That'll be another topic. Like for all you pro-blacks out here who talking about we got black skin and all this crazy shit. Man, that's another topic. Excuse my language. That's another topic. I'm gonna get on that. But next topic we're gonna be talking about probably Friday or probably before that. Do humans have hair or fur? I know I already discussed this, but I want to really get into this again. Do humans have hair or fur? You know, and that's going to be a even deeper topic, but we'll go deeper into that. But that's it. I'm about to wrap this up. Please go and hit the link down below for the Indigenous Street Festival. We still taking donations for that. Please hit the link and all. I sent out a lot of people's shirts, so y'all should be getting your shirts within a few days. The people who left their addresses, the people who made sure they left their shirt size, you got shirts coming. I made sure my wives packed them away for y'all, so you know they got it set together, got it settled, so we could do that. So we packed shirts for you, and we want as a show of appreciation for your donation to the American Indigenous Street and Music Festival, which is going to be a very, very important event. You see, we are embracing who we are as Americans. You see, and that's what's going to make us better as a people when we embrace who we are as Americans in our own country. You see, that's how we have to see things. Because again, when you I say this about so-called black people, when you know, gotten true knowledge of who you are and respect of who you are, then you won't be so quick to hurt each other. You won't be so quick to damage your neighborhoods. You won't be so quick to disrespect your woman, disrespect your children, disrespect your seed. You won't be so quick to do that if you truly know that you have a nationality as an American man. Because again, we're supposed to be redefining what an American man is. We're supposed to be redefining. Why? Because we're the only first and real original Americans here. And it's time we started acknowledging that. I told you last week, you know, you're going to have some haters. People don't like the fact that we ain't going to just shut up and be black. And no, we're not. We're not. And we're not going to be loud about it. We just leaving certain things alone. Listen, man, we ain't got to be no loud out, display. We're just rejecting certain things and going forward. That's it. So again, if you want to become a registered American in the Republic of America, a registered Indigenous American, because we have our own community, man. We got our own American community that's going to be separate from the so-called black community. You see, let the Negroes over there be African Americans, man. This is all about who we are as real Americans, American Indigenous people. So hit the link down below and join the Republic of America, ROA Worldwide. Hit the link, ROA Worldwide. Support the American Indigenous Street Music Festival. If you give over $100, we're going to send you 3 T-shirts out. And again, the people who've given, thank you. Your shirts are coming. I promise you. You got my word on it. And that's it. Support my Mentellect Patreon. Go check out my Mentellect Patreon. I'm always doing casts every night. I'm gonna do one tonight. I'm doing my cast every night. American Mentellect Radio. So check that out. And also check out Sister Enra Vanzetta's American Indigenous channel. So we embracing our American roots, and that's it. I'm gonna close this out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. And Amen we trust, and Amen we think. And then I only got 2. Okay, D. Okay, just send a email to the thanks. How much did you give him? We'll take a look at it. We'll correct whatever is an issue. We'll correct it. But yeah, we're gonna close this out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and Amen we continue forward forever. I am the intellectual Lord, Benjamin Manhattan. This has been Supreme American TV. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow night. Oh, no, not back here. I'm sorry. I'll see you guys back here on Friday. Next time I'm coming back on is Friday. If I do something before Friday, I'm gonna get on. I'm not gonna be on camera because You know, it take too long. A lot of times, if I'm not on camera, I ain't gotta, you know, shave and do all the stuff I gotta do to get myself all, you know, decent and y'all. How y'all like the Oxnard shirt? Y'all like this? Y'all like the Oxnard joint? This is nice, right? They make beautiful shirts, man. They're very affordable. I'm not doing no commercial for these people, but they're beautiful. So I'm gonna say that Oxnard. Shout out to them. You know, that's it. I'm gonna close out. What am I gonna close out with? I'm gonna close out. I'm gonna play something nice. Play something nice. Play my man Rakim. Good night.
Standing by the speaker, suddenly I had this fever, wasn't me either, summer madness. Cause I just can't stand around, so I get closer, and the closer I get, the better it sound. My mind start to activate, rhymes collaborate. Cause when I heard the beat, I just had to make something from the top of my head. So I fell into the groove of the wax, and I said, how could I move the crowd? First of all, ain't no mistakes allowed. Here's the instructions, put it together. It's simple, ain't it? But quite clever. Some of you been trying to write rhymes for years, but weak ideas irritate my ears. Is this the best that you can make? Cause if not, and you got more, I'll wait. But don't make me wait too long, cause I'ma move on the dance floor when they put something smooth on. So turn up the bass, it's better when it's loud. Cause I like to move the crowd. 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 Measure me with the heat that's made by solar. It gets stronger every time I hold a microphone. Check the tone and get started. The line for the microphone is departed. So leave it up to me. My DJ is mixing. Everyone is moving or eager to listen. Your hands in the air, your mouth shut. Cause I'm on the mic and Eric B is on the cut. For those that know me, indeed I like the flow, especially when the music's going slow. It gives me a chance to let everybody know it's time to bust out the Rakim show. I'm the intelligent, wise on the mic. I will rise right in front of your eyes, cause I am a surprise. So I'ma let my knowledge be born to a perfection. All praise is due to Allah, and that's a blessing. But knowledge itself, there's nothing I can't solve. In 360 degrees, I revolve. This is actual fact, it's not an act, it's been proven indeed. And I proceed to make the crowd keep moving. Move the crowd.